Welcome to Behind the Dirty Needle. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Kristen.
How are you?
I'm great.
Good. I'm excited to be here and talk a little bit more. Shit.
Yes, in this episode, we are going to expose the dark side of the med spa industry.
Mm, scary.
Today, we're talking about one of the biggest problems in the industry, the complete lack of regulation.
Bum, bum, bum.
uh,
What's regulation? Regulation and med spa. Does that even go together?
it's more of a nebulous concept, I think.
Right. So people assume that someone's holding that person holding the syringe of Botox and filler.
They know what they're doing.
Right. They've
Yeah.
had tons of schooling, tons of training.
Nope.
Yeah, not necessarily, which is kind of frightening, to be quite honest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then the so-called medical directors have never even stepped foot into these med spas
The
nine
who?
times out of 10. Right.
Wait, there's a medical
Yeah.
director?
Do you want me to spell it out?
Yeah, can you actually? Yeah, I've never heard of that, but I'm just
I
kidding.
don't either. I think we need to Google it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, I did. I had to Google the roles and responsibilities of a medical director. We'll get into that in a little bit.
I think so. I think it's going to be really interesting.
I
So,
just pulled my headphones up.
but they're supposedly overseeing these med spas, and sometimes they have multiple med spas too. That's what's exciting is it's not just one. It can be up to 30 that I've seen some medical directors be in charge of, 5. And I don't think I've seen a medical director and had a personal relationship with one ever. How
Yeah.
about you?
No, I can say from personal experience, I had one zip code in my territory as a
Mm.
as a rep for an aesthetics company,
hmm
and I had a medical director who had 17 med spas within that one zip code.
Wow,
And to this day, I could not pick that man out of a lineup if my life depended on it.
that's crazy.
So that gives you a little bit of an idea about the level of oversight
Right,
that's actually happening there.
right. And as
So,
a practice manager, I always wanted to be involved with the medical director. I
yeah.
wanted to see them as much as possible, learn from them, and overall just make sure I was managing properly.
I mean, I think there has to be a good balance, right? Because you don't want the
Yeah.
medical director there like breathing over your shoulder every
No.
second. But at the same time, I feel like these medical directors are basically pimping out their medical license and allowing people to just, I mean, if they knew what was actually going on in these med spas half the time, don't you think they would want to be a little bit more involved?
I would think so, especially since inspections can happen. People can come in and,
Mm-hmm.
the health department or whoever comes in because I've never been inspected ever, which
Yeah,
I
I
think
was
is
gonna
crazy
ask
even
you,
with Texas State
have you
Board.
have you ever had a random inspection at your med spa ever?
No, no, not even at the spas, the regular like day spas that I worked in my,
Why do you
younger
think that
years.
is?
I think there's lack of manpower at the state level.
Yeah,
And
they're
I
too
think they're
busy regulating
busy
like.
doing other stuff. I don't know if they're compensated very well.
Hmm.
And I know the Texas board, from what I've been told, only kind of entertains certain things. If it's not, you know, extreme enough, they're going to let it slide, so you
Oh,
have to have
great.
a lot of
We gotta have a
um,
lot more people die first.
evidence.
Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot
Perfect.
more noses have to fall
Oh,
off.
jeez.
A
Well,
lot
let's
more blind
let's
people
let's
have
talk
to
about
show up.
that. Let's talk about there's a huge the second problem in, the med spa industry. One, there's a lack of medical direction and
hmm
regulation.
Yep.
Two, there's a huge training gap. Like injectors who want to learn, who actually want to be good at their craft.
hmm
It's really hard to actually do that. It's hard
Right.
to find training
hmm
and it's hard to, you know, get that hands-on practice once you get the training.
Right. And let's talk about how much that training is. It's
Mhm.
expensive.
Very much
And if
so.
it's not expensive, there's a problem.
Yes.
Because they have to pay for that, product that they're using the training for. And that product, you guys, as we all know, is not cheap.
It's funny because, like the face, when you look at it, it's so rich in vasculature and there's so many variations from patient to patient.
hmm
And you really do have to be so careful with what you're doing and know, the areas that you're injecting into and the safest techniques. There's not a clear path for injectors to become like a certified master injector. There's no clear path.
Right.
For doctors, physician's assistants, there are fellowships, right?
hmm
There are um, rotations that they have to go through in order to get those
Yeah.
credentials. There's really nothing like that in place for
Right.
injectors.
I think what happens with injectors is longevity is how you get your expertise.
Yeah.
The longer you've been injecting, no matter if it's proper injecting or improper injecting, that's how you become an expert, is because, oh, I've been in the industry for 6 years. And even though I've been in the aesthetic industry for over 20, which is crazy, I don't claim to be an expert in almost
No.
anything. I just tend to say I have a lot of experience,
Yeah.
but I've yet to claim the expert thing. I would love to be one, though. I
And even
definitely
if you
goals.
are an expert at something, the industry and technology and science is always changing, right? This is a highly evolving industry. So, I mean, it's,
Yep.
you've got to
You got to
continually be
keep up.
learning.
You
Yeah.
got to keep up. And that's what kind of frightens me about the medical director not keeping up, with
Because usually they
the
have a day
trends.
job. They're like an
Typically.
anesthesiologist or,
Mhm.
emergency room
Well,
doctor,
nowadays they can, be,
gynecologist.
endocrinologists and, anything really.
They keep.
Dentists. Mm,
That's another
that's
episode.
a whole different episode. But anyway.
But yeah, this industry is all about learning on the job. But when that involves needles and arteries and potentially blinding a patient,
Hmm.
I mean, that should scare the hell out of you.
Right.
So,
Right. And I can understand why the good injectors out there don't want just anyone, in their classification, be it, and I'm an esthetician, so I can speak to this. Um, I would never personally want to take on the responsibility of injecting with only having a small amount of anatomy
yeah.
in my schooling. Now, if you're an esthetician who is wanting to be an RN, wanting to be a PA, you may have more experience with that, and that's for your medical director to figure out if you're, capable of it. But a hydrofacial esthetician type person
They
shouldn't be,
shouldn't be
you
injecting
know,
things.
yeah, being a injector on the side. I believe that when you inject, that should be what you're doing most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
I'll I'll never forget. I got to tell this story. It was my first week as a brand new aesthetic sales representative, and I walked into one of my larger accounts, and I met with the injector, one of the injectors. There were multiple injectors there, and she asked me, like she came to me, sought me out, and asked me about how to inject a particular area of the face.
she asked the sales
Me,
rep.
the sales rep. Okay,
That's
so
frightening.
not only was I new on the job and I had no idea,
Mhm.
it was an off-label area, so I didn't have any information I could even give her on it.
Mhm.
The funny thing was, as soon as I got out to my car and I was like looking at the website, this is my first visit in this clinic, that was one of her areas of specialization that she listed.
Okay. So, false
So,
advertisement.
I mean, it's just you can't be too careful when you're
And
look.
let's talk about why she thought you would know.
Yeah,
Is
that's a
it
great point.
because you look like you know?
It's because I work for a company that provides training, but they don't provide training on that particular
So
area.
they're correlating the sales rep with being clinical.
Yeah.
Well, mistake number one.
And don't get me wrong, like, by the time I'd finished, I'd been in enough trainings to where I could probably be dangerous being the key word there, but that doesn't give me any kind of credentialing to advise an injector how to inject someone else's face. Like,
Right.
in no way would I ever take on that responsibility. In
Mhm.
no way would my company that I worked for at the time want me to take on that responsibility. That is just
Right.
something that is completely inappropriate.
Right.
But I feel
So,
like it happens all the time.
all the time. And so my next question would be, would it be better for these sales reps to have a clinical background?
I think so.
I mean, not to discredit what you brought to the table, because that's how you and I got connected,
Yeah.
and not to discredit, my sales background, but I think somebody who's more relatable, who can actually answer that question with, actual information that is
Hmm.
helpful, would be probably a better fit, but they would
Especially
be more expensive.
they would be, but in an industry that's not regulated, I mean that might be worth it.
It might be worth it, and I guarantee you the sales of those injectables would go through the roof, meaning what they bought, to go ahead and treat with. So,
Well, can
whatever
you
their buying
imagine too
power
if the
is.
sales rep actually had injection experience? They could provide some kind of hands-on
Yeah,
shoulder to shoulder training. I did shoulder to shoulder, so I couldn't advise you how to inject,
right,
but I could provide the product. If they
right.
could actually provide the product and the clinical
Hmm.
background and direction,
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
right. And
Just
there'd
a
be
thought.
like peace of mind as a business owner, as a medical director, knowing that that type of person is coming into my office. I would be like, heck yeah, this is great.
Let's talk about what can happen. Why? So we don't have as much regulation as we'd like. The medical directors are kind of absent. There's a lack of training, right? And a
Mhm.
lack of knowledge. What are the dangers of that?
Well, the dangers are the injectors out there who literally YouTube, Google, and go ahead and, just watch videos real quick before their person comes in to say, okay, maybe I know how to do the cheeks a little bit better now.
That has never happened, right?
Um, I will, I will neither confirm nor deny, but I'm going to lean towards yeah.
So, if you think little bad Botox and a droopy eyebrow is like the worst thing that can happen to you at a medical spa, the risks of poor injecting go way beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
You have vascular occlusions. The
Oh,
face is highly vascular, as I've already said, and filler, if it's injected into a blood vessel, it can block circulation and cause tissue death,
that's crazy.
literally killing parts of your face.
That's nuts. I mean,
I You've
frightening.
talked about people's noses falling off. It's happened. It
Yeah,
has happened.
it's definitely happened. And if we want to just kind of define what an occlusion is, can you define it?
Yeah, it's anything that's injected into a vessel or an artery that's
Hmm.
providing blood to an area.
Right,
Every part of your body needs blood flow and circulation in order to sustain life.
right,
So if you're blocking blood flow to an area, it's going to die off.
right. Yep. And you have a very small window
To
to
treat
get
that.
emergency help. And that's where a medical director on the premises
Gee, they keep coming up, don't they?
may or may not be a benefit. But of course, we don't want to live our life like we're going to have occlusions every day.
No, but it
But
would be good to have protocols in place
yes,
should it
and
occur.
Hylenex.
Yes. So
Yes,
another
the expensive Hylenex.
Yes, it is expensive,
Yeah,
but it's very important.
it's more expensive to have the bad publicity, though,
Oh God.
right? Yeah.
Infections and nodules are something else that can happen.
Oh boy,
They're
I've
probably more common
been there.
than occlusions,
Mm,
but I mean, this podcast is called Behind the Dirty Needle.
right.
If an injector does not have great aseptic technique, maybe they're not using chlorhexidine before
Mm-hmm.
they're not properly cleansing the skin before they go in and inject.
Mm-hmm.
These fillers are very tightly cross-linked hyaluronic acid. It's different from what your body
Yep.
creates. So any bacteria that gets in there will stay in there trapped for a long time, and our body it causes a reaction.
Sure. Yeah.
So
It's frightening.
that's something else that can happen. And sometimes nodules can't be dissolved, even though the filler can be dissolved with
Mm-hmm.
Hylenex. Sometimes nodules have to be surgically removed.
I will say that I had a very large nodule on my jawline from a filler that was more mimicking bone.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to have an injector that really did the research to see was there a way we could dissolve this because, yes, it would go away over time, but not for many, many, many years.
Hmm.
And, we figured out that the saline or whatever she did, and, if you're out there listening, thank you so much for dissolving it. But it slowly got smaller and smaller and smaller, but we literally called it a boba because it felt like one of those
Felt like a
boba
boba in your
things,
jaw, yeah.
squishy things. And you could only see it if I moved my mouth a certain way. But it was really fascinating because it wasn't like her technique caused it.
Hmm.
It was my body reacting to the injection itself.
Your
So,
body is a foreign, it's a foreign substance being put in your body. Your body tries to fight it.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. But,
Blindness, that's another thing that can happen.
oh, Lord.
So certain injections, like especially those crazy ass injectors that do the liquid rhinoplasties, I don't care who you are, I don't care how long you've been practicing,
Mm,
liquid rhinoplasty should not be a thing. Okay, just get the rhinoplasty. I did it. I
mm,
know a couple guys. Just do it. Liquid rhinoplasty. It's not worth it. First of all, it's temporary.
yeah,
Second of all, you could go blind.
yeah, but it's cheaper, Catherine.
It's your face, and do you want to be blind?
I'm just going to play devil's advocate here because I have been around the people who just want to cut the corners because they think that kind of stuff will not happen to them.
Well, they must buy lottery tickets too.
Mm, yeah, well, yeah. But I've seen some really good
Yeah, I have too. I've
injectors who
seen
are
really good liquid
wonderful,
rhinoplasties. Don't get me wrong.
amazing, amazing.
However, until you can see the vasculature in there, the vasculature in the nose in particular
Hmm.
is highly,
It's crazy.
highly variable.
Right, right. And over time, honestly, if you continue to get your liquid rhinoplasty and take that risk every time, right,
You're going to get unlucky at some point.
well, you're going to be spending more than the surgery
Yeah.
over time, to be honest.
I mean, I don't know. I just don't believe in that. That's one aesthetic
Mm,
um, procedure I would never have done.
interesting. I would have done it in a heartbeat because I hate my nose. And I still contemplate it, but the more I hear about, people having bad experiences
It's not worth it.
and really having to research the right injector, I, am not exactly ready to pull the trigger, but I definitely entertained it for a while, I will say, because for me it was like, oh, cool, I don't have to go under anesthesia. I don't have to have the black eyes. I don't have to all that
The
kind of stuff.
anesthesia is just a great nap.
I guess if you look at it that way, yes. Yeah.
So, okay, with all this craziness out there, how can consumers protect themselves?
Gosh, I say read reviews on where you're going, and the best kind of place to go is where you've been recommended to go.
Hmm.
Where you've seen the work and you have somebody saying, "Hey, this is my injector. This is, where I would go." But you're taking a risk no matter what. No matter what.
What about researching the medical director?
Yes. And finding out who that is. I mean, that should hopefully be on the website.
I
But
mean, for
yeah.
example, a Google search will you can quickly see if there's any lawsuits
Mm,
pending,
mm-hmm,
or potentially how many
mm-hmm.
medical spas they are overseeing.
Right. Right.
But the medical director is something that I would recommend consumers looking into before they step foot in a
Right.
medical spa.
And we will say, we know that there's bullshit lawsuits out there. We know that,
Totally. Yeah, it
so
happens.
it's going to
There's
be
also bad
stupid
reviews.
people.
There's
Yep.
going to be Karens.
Yep. Don't even get me started with the Karens.
um,
Totally another episode.
but
We're
but
coming for you.
we're coming for you, Karen. If your name's Karen, I'm really
Watch
sorry.
out.
But asking about them or researching the medical injector, I think asking about complication protocols in your
Hmm.
consultation,
Yeah.
I think that would scare the hell out of injectors that don't have one.
Right. And before and afters, guys, ask for the before and afters
Mm-hmm.
and make sure the before and afters are from that provider,
Yep.
not from just, ooh, this happened, in South Dakota using this product,
Look at this
and
before and after from the
wow,
company that
from
this product
19,
was made.
92.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also it's fair to question your injector's training. Ask them how many years they've been injecting. Ask them what they do to continue to,
Yeah.
develop as an injector.
If you're spending that kind of money,
Mm-hmm.
you should definitely know what's going in your face and who's touching you. This is your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally agree.
I think most importantly, don't assume that just because somebody is holding a needle that they know what they're doing.
Amen. Yeah. Agreed. 1,000%. Awesome. Arm yourself with knowledge about what Hylenex is. I know we briefly kind of touched about what that is, but that's going to be able to dissolve. Now, remember, dissolving filler isn't just a quick fix. It
And it doesn't
hurts.
completely dissolve.
It hurts. It hurts a lot.
And that's another episode. We'll get into that. But it doesn't completely go away. It just
Right.
it
Minimizes.
breaks it down
Right.
to where
Yeah.
it can, like if you have a nodule or something, it will gradually make that go
Right.
away.
And sometimes you need it more than once.
You usually need it more than once.
If you go to a different injector, they may want to dissolve other people's work.
And it
That's
hurts
just
like hell. Can we just say
fucking
that?
hurts like a bitch. Oh my
It
God.
does. It
Yeah.
burns. It burns.
Yeah. Maybe certain areas don't hurt as much,
Nope, it
but
all
I had it
hurts.
underneath my eyes and I wanted to die.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway,
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Oh gosh, let's be advocates for more regulation. I don't know if we have to go down to like, our state capital or something and like hold a sign.
Sounds like a lot of work.
But hopefully a platform like this will get awareness out there, get the conversation going. Whether you're in agreements or you have something else to say, we want to talk about it
We
because
want to hear from you.
we want to talk about it because the more we talk about it, the more change can happen.
And that's why
So,
we started this podcast, because we want to
yep.
expose the unsafe practices that are occurring
Right.
and arm you guys with the knowledge that you need to
Hmm.
get those treatments that you want, but be safe out there.
Right. And for those of you who work in the industry, acknowledging that there's a lot of shit
Mm-hmm.
that is going on.
And acknowledging that it's a challenge. Like, even as injectors, it's hard to get the education you need in
Mhm.
order to be good at your craft.
Right.
It's expensive. You have to invest in yourself,
Right.
because nobody's going to invest in you until you are a big enough customer.
Right. And you and I both know there are amazing injectors out there.
Yes.
And we applaud you. And I'm in awe of you because it is not an easy job. It's artwork.
It is.
But for every great, amazing injector, I feel like there's at least
Bad
10,000
ones.
that are not so good,
Mm-hmm.
tainting the hard work and education that these great injectors are bringing to the table. And that's what fucking pisses me off.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I agreed.
Yeah. So,
If you learned something today, do us a favor and subscribe.
yeah.
Share
us.
this episode with your friends,
Mhm.
so that, especially if they get aesthetic treatments, so that
Oh
they
my
can be
gosh.
safe.
1,000%. Or if they just got hired somewhere.
Follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, and send us your questions,
Yeah.
anything you want to hear about.
Mhm.
Share with us your dirty needle stories, or
Right.
your med spa horror stories. We want to hear about them. You can remain anonymous. It's okay.
Yep.
And thanks for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Next
This is
week,
exciting.
we're going to expose the cutthroat, catty, and downright unethical tactics that med spa owners use to crush their competition.
Ugh,
It's going to
where do
be
we
really
start?
good. It's
It's going
going
to
to
be
be
really
good.
good. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you joining.
Thanks.
Bye.